The flickering candlelight of the Great Hall did little to soothe the pervasive chill that had settled over Hogwarts. It wasn't the natural bite of early winter, it was a cold born of fear, a creeping dread that seeped into the very stones of the ancient castle. Elias Thorne, a sixth-year Ravenclaw, felt it more acutely than most. He sat at his house table, a half-eaten treacle tart growing cold on his plate, his gaze fixed on the subtle shimmer of the overhead enchantments, ancient wards that hummed with a weary power. Elias was a creature of observation. His mind, sharp and analytical, was a labyrinth of facts, theories, and unasked questions. He saw the world in shades of gray that others painted in stark black and white, and he noticed the minutiae that most overlooked. This keen intellect, however, was often overshadowed by a crippling lack of self-confidence. An orphaned half-blood, raised in the Muggle world, he'd always felt like an outsider, a silent observer rather than an active participant. In a world spiraling into chaos with Voldemort's resurgence, he felt utterly insignificant, a single, flickering candle against an approaching storm. Lately, though, the observations had become disturbing. The wards, for instance. They weren't just stronger, layered thicker than ever by the professors. They felt wrong. Like a beautiful tapestry suddenly threaded with rough, alien fibers that distorted the pattern. Spells, too. He'd seen Professor Flitwick struggling with a particularly stubborn Repello Muggleton charm near Hogsmeade last week, the air around it crackling with an almost acidic tang, something far more sinister than simple resistance. Even the shadows seemed deeper, clinging a little too long in the corners of the corridors, whispering promises of despair. A sharp clatter as a first-year dropped a spoon jolted Elias, and he quickly lowered his gaze, flushing slightly. He hated drawing attention to himself. Around him, the usual din of dinner conversation was muted, peppered with hushed whispers of recent Death Eater attacks. Hogsmeade had been hit again. A family of Muggles, targeted in London. Each report was a fresh wound, twisting the knot of anxiety in his stomach. How could he, Elias Thorne, a boy who struggled to speak up in potions class, possibly make a difference against such terror? Suddenly, a piercing shriek echoed through the hall, not human, not even animal. It was a sound that scraped against the soul, a symphony of pure, unadulterated fear. The great hall erupted into pandemonium. Benches scraped, plates shattered, and students screamed, their faces contorted in terror. Death Eaters, someone shrieked, the word a catalyst for instant, primal panic. Elias instinctively ducked under the table, his heart hammering against his ribs. He wasn't a fighter. He was a thinker. But even as his body trembled, his mind raced, trying to process the unfolding chaos. He peered out from beneath the polished wood, his eyes wide. The massive oak doors of the great hall had been blasted inwards, splintering with a thunderous roar. Dark figures, cloaked and masked, poured into the hall, their wands raised. Green jets of light, Avada Kedavras and curses, sliced through the air. Counterspells, vivid and desperate, exploded from the professors, who had instantly sprung into action, forming a defensive line. Elias saw Professor McGonagall's stern face, her wand a blur of motion, transfiguring falling debris into a barricade. Professor Snape, surprisingly, was also there, a cold fury in his eyes as he flung dark curses of his own at the invaders, though Elias noticed his movements seemed reluctant, almost calculated. Flitwick, tiny but formidable, was a whirlwind of intricate charms, shielding students and deflecting curses with astonishing speed. But amidst the familiar terror, Elias saw it. A ripple like heat haze distorted the air directly behind the lead Death Eaters. It wasn't a visible spell, but a subtle warping of reality itself. Then, from the very air, a presence solidified. It wasn't corporeal in the way a ghost was, nor did it possess the solid mass of a living creature. It was else. It was tall, impossibly gaunt, shrouded in robes that seemed woven from shadow and despair. Its face was a mask of skeletal horror, its eyes burning with an infernal light that promised only suffering. A silent scream seemed to emanate from its very being, a psychic assault that made Elias's teeth ache and his mind reel with fragmented images of his deepest fears, loneliness, failure, the crushing weight of insignificance. Students nearest to the entity crumpled to the floor, not struck by curses, but by an invisible force that drained their will, their joy, their very life force. Their screams died in their throats, replaced by a horrifying, wheezing gasp, their eyes wide and vacant. The Death Eaters themselves seemed emboldened by its presence, their movements faster, their curses more potent, leaving an odd, greasy residue in their wake that seemed to suck the light out of everything it touched. Elias watched in horror as Professor Vector, the arithmancy professor, tried to cast a powerful shielding charm. The spell flared brightly, a dome of golden light, but as the spectral entity drifted closer, the dome didn't just shatter, it corrupted. The gold turned sickly green, then black, twisting inwards before imploding, leaving Professor Vector staggering, her face ashen, clutching her head as if in immense pain. "What is that thing?" a terrified Gryffindor hissed from under a nearby table. "Some new dark magic from you-know-who, no doubt," another whispered back, trembling. "It's dreadful." Elias knew better. This wasn't just dark magic. He'd studied every tome on dark arts he could find in the restricted section, desperate to understand the enemy. He'd never read of anything like this. The way it moved, the way it bypassed the wards not by brute force, but by subtle corruption, the way it fed on fear, it felt alien, infernal. He watched as a strong protego from Professor Babbling, the ancient runes teacher, dissolved into wisps of shadow the moment the entity's aura touched it. Traditional magic, even the most powerful, seemed to struggle, not to fight, but to comprehend it. He saw the Death Eaters themselves, their movements amplified, their curses burning with a raw, unholy power. One of them, a bulky figure Elias recognized as McNair, roared with a savage glee as he brought down a section of the wall near the Ravenclaw table with a single, unnaturally potent confringo. Suddenly, a brilliant flash of silver light exploded from Professor Flitwick, a complex Patronus charm in the shape of a hummingbird, impossibly quick and vibrant. It zipped towards the spectral entity, but instead of deterring it, the Patronus seemed to hesitate, flickering weakly before the entity simply absorbed its light, growing marginally brighter, its eyes burning with renewed intensity. Flitwick staggered, a look of profound shock and horror on his face, his usual jovial expression replaced by utter bewilderment. "It feeds on hope," Flitwick cried out, his voice thin with alarm. "And fear, it feeds on everything." Just as the situation seemed utterly lost, a deafening crack filled the hall. A powerful, focused surge of magic, not from a wand, but from the very air, slammed into the lead Death Eaters, throwing them back. Voldemort himself, a gaunt, serpentine figure, swept into the hall, his red eyes blazing. He didn't cast a spell at the entity, but merely gestured, and with a soft, insidious hiss, the spectral horror retreated, melting back into the shadows from which it had come. "Your time will come, Dumbledore," Voldemort's cold voice echoed, amplified by magic, despite the headmaster's absence. "Soon, Hogwarts will fall. And everything you cherish will burn." With a series of loud cracks, the Death Eaters operated away, leaving behind a ruined hall, terrified students, and the stench of ozone and something indescribably foul, like burnt fear. Silence, thick and heavy, descended. The professors, though visibly shaken, immediately began tending to the injured, their faces grim. McGonagall barked orders, her voice steady but strained. Elias slowly crawled out from under the table, his legs stiff. He looked around at the chaos, the fallen, the weeping, the professors trying to make sense of the attack. But his gaze kept returning to the space where the spectral entity had been. The air still felt wrong there, thin and cold, as if some vital essence had been sucked out of it. The faint, greasy residue clung to the shattered stones, shimmering with an unwholesome, dark iridescence. He saw a first-year girl, still shaking uncontrollably, clutching her head, staring blankly at the ruined ceiling. Her eyes were devoid of light, her face pale and drawn, not from injury, but from some deeper trauma. She looked empty. "Are you all right, Thorne?" Professor Sinistra, the astronomy teacher, knelt beside him, her brow furrowed with concern. Elias nodded, though his voice felt trapped in his throat. "Professor," he managed to croak, that wasn't just dark magic, was it? That thing, what was it?" Professor Sinistra sighed, running a weary hand through her hair. "Voldemort always finds new horrors, Elias. His power grows. We just have to fight harder, find new ways to defend ourselves." She patted his shoulder, her attention already pulled towards a seriously injured student. He watched her go, a profound sense of isolation washing over him. They didn't see it. They were trying to fit it into the existing framework of dark magic, of Voldemort's escalating power. But Elias knew, with a chilling certainty, that it was something far, far worse. It bypassed spells, corrupted wards, fed on the very essence of emotion. It was an entity from beyond, a malignancy that transcended the known boundaries of wizarding evil. He walked past the quiet despair of the first-year girl, past the strange, oily residue on the shattered floor, past the professors who were already discussing new warding charms and defensive strategies against Voldemort's enhanced dark arts. His mind, usually plagued by self-doubt, was now strangely clear, illuminated by a terrifying epiphany. This wasn't just about Voldemort. This was about something else, something infernal, something that twisted magic itself. And if no one else saw it, if everyone was blinded by the familiar specter of the Dark Lord, then it fell to him, Elias Thorne, the quiet observer, to understand. He had to know what it was, what it wanted, and how to stop it before it devoured everything. The thought was terrifying, almost paralyzing, but stronger than his fear was the undeniable, burning need to know. He had to find out what that thing was. And he had a horrifying suspicion that it had a name. The lingering scent of burnt stone and ozone clung to Elias Thorne's robes like a shroud, a constant reminder of the horror he'd witnessed. The Death Eater attack outside Hogsmeade had been brutal, but it was the spectral entity, impervious to every spell, its mere presence a drain on the soul, that gnawed at him. He'd seen the ancient wards of Hogwarts flicker, not just from the shock of powerful curses, but from something insidious, a slow, cancerous corruption that defied explanation. For days, Elias moved through the familiar halls of Hogwarts like a ghost, his mind replaying the terrifying encounter. He watched his fellow students laugh and chatter, their concerns mundane, upcoming potions essays, Quidditch tryouts, the latest gossip about Harry Potter. How could they not feel it? The air was thicker, heavier, tainted with a subtle dread that seemed to seep from the very stones. He felt a desperate urge to shout, to warn them, but the words caught in his throat, suffocated by the thorny vines of his own self-doubt. Who would believe a quiet Ravenclaw like him, a half-blood nobody, claiming to have seen a demon? A demon in Hogwarts? It sounded like something out of a child's nightmare, not a tangible threat in the rational wizarding world. Yet, the memory of that creature, its ethereal form rippling with malevolence, its chilling immunity to magic, was too vivid, too real. He had to tell someone who might not immediately dismiss him as delusional. His thoughts, naturally, drifted to Luna Lovegood. Her mind, so often dismissed as eccentric, saw things others couldn't, or wouldn't. He found her, as he often did, in a quiet corner of the library, head tilted as she peered intently at a particularly dusty tome on ancient runes, an expression of profound concentration on her face. Her radish earrings swayed gently as she occasionally hummed a tuneless melody. "Luna," Elias said, his voice barely a whisper, causing her to jump slightly and look up with wide, dreamy eyes. "Oh, hello, Elias," she said, her voice airy. "Are you feeling the Raxperts today? They're quite agitated, buzzing around like furious bees." Elias swallowed, his gaze darting around the near-empty section. "Something like that. Luna, I need to talk to you about something I saw during the last attack." Her eyes seemed to sharpen, losing a fraction of their usual dreaminess. "The one near the Hog's Head?" "Yes, I felt it." The air was particularly thick with fear. "And something else. Something sharp, like broken glass in a silk purse." He nodded, a surge of relief washing over him. She hadn't dismissed him. "I saw it. A creature. It wasn't a wizard or a Death Eater. Spells just went through it. And the wards, they were corrupted." It felt like they were screaming. Luna's gaze drifted past him, seemingly focused on a distant, invisible point. Yes, she murmured, her voice soft but firm. It felt like a tear in the fabric, didn't it? As if the veil between here and somewhere else was growing thin. The Nargles were particularly upset by it, though I think they were just trying to warn everyone about the Glimmerghasts. They feed on despair, you know, and this new kind of dark magic seems to churn out despair like a butter churn on overdrive. Elias frowned, trying to translate Luna's unique terminology. Glimmerghasts? You mean, whatever that thing was, it feeds on despair. Oh yes. And fear. And loneliness, Luna replied, her eyes returning to his, filled with an unsettling clarity. It makes the world feel thinner, somehow. Like colors are muted and sounds are muffled. It wants to make everyone doubt themselves, to feel utterly alone, so it can slip through the cracks. She paused, then added, it leaves a very strange residue too. Not quite magical, not quite mundane. Like the echo of a nightmare. Her description, as unconventional as it was, resonated with Elias. The feeling of utter hopelessness, the suffocating dread that had settled over him during the attack, now made terrible sense. This wasn't just Voldemort's amplified cruelty, it was something designed to break the very spirit. We need to tell Professor Flitwick, Elias stated, a newfound determination hardening his voice. He's the only one I can think of who might have any idea what this is, or how to fight it. Luna nodded sagely. A wise choice. Professor Flitwick has a remarkable mind, much like a well-organized attic, full of forgotten treasures. Professor Flitwick's office, usually a chaotic but comforting space filled with tinkling charms and stacks of parchment, felt unusually grave as Elias and Luna recounted their observations. Flitwick listened intently, his tiny frame perched on a pile of books, his brow furrowed in concentration. He polished his spectacles repeatedly, a nervous habit. A spectral entity immune to conventional magic? Flitwick repeated, his voice surprisingly deep for his size. And corrupted wards? That is highly irregular. While Voldemort's mastery of the dark arts is formidable, such phenomena are entirely outside known magical parameters. One might suspect a new form of ancient ritualistic magic, perhaps. Something forgotten or never meant to be rediscovered. Elias felt a prickle of frustration. It wasn't like a ghost, Professor. It felt predatory. And Luna said it feeds on fear and despair. It felt like something from another plane. Another plane? Flitwick mused, stroking his chin. That is a rather fantastical claim, Mr. Thorne. Even for Miss Lovegood, if I may say so. He shot Luna a kindly, if slightly skeptical, glance. While I admire your imagination, we must approach this scientifically. Perhaps a highly advanced, non-corporeal dark spell? Or a misapplied transfiguration charm? No, Professor, Luna interjected, her voice unusually firm. It felt wrong. Like a not in reality. And it smelled of burnt pennies and sadness. Flitwick winced slightly at the olfactory description, but a flicker of genuine curiosity sparked in his eyes. Burnt pennies and sadness. Intriguing. Very well. While I remain dubious regarding an entity from another plane, the corruption of the wards is a matter of utmost concern, as is its immunity to conventional magic. If what you describe is accurate, then Voldemort's power has indeed taken a turn for the truly horrifying. He sighed, running a hand over his bald patch. I confess, my knowledge of such esoteric phenomena is limited, but I do possess a rather extensive personal library. I shall begin researching immediately. Ancient texts, obscure incantations, tales of forgotten beasts. If there is any precedent for such a thing, I will find it. Over the next week, the trio met in secret, mostly in Flitwick's office after hours, the windows magically darkened against prying eyes. Elias spent hours in the restricted section, guided by Flitwick's notes, poring over crumbling scrolls and whispering spellbooks. Luna, meanwhile, would offer insights that, while bizarre, often proved startlingly accurate, like divining the color of a particular binding or the location of a hidden passage within a text. The way the words feel when you read them, Elias, she'd say, peering at a faded illustration of an arcane symbol. These ones feel heavy, like they've been dragged through sludge. And the lines, they look like the tentacles of a giant squid trying to grab something beyond the page. Flitwick, initially skeptical, grew more and more disturbed with each passing day. He found cryptic references to planar fissures, soul harvesters, and infernal pacts in texts he'd previously dismissed as mere folklore. He cross-referenced accounts of unnatural phenomena with lunas, glimmerghasts, and rackspurts, finding terrifying correlations. One cold, blustery evening, as the wind howled outside the charm's master's office, Flitwick finally broke the silence, his face pale, his spectacles misted with condensation. He held a leather-bound grimoire, its pages brittle and yellowed, open to an intricate, unsettling drawing of a winged, crowned figure. Elias Luna. "I believe I have found it," he began, his voice barely above a whisper. "Or, rather than this entity. It appears in ancient Sumerian and Roman demonology. It is known by many names, but one in particular resonates with your descriptions of its nature and abilities." He pointed a trembling finger at the drawing. "It is called Valak, the great president of hell. A powerful demonic entity said to command 30 legions of spirits. And its most terrifying ability, according to these texts, is its capacity to bypass conventional magical defenses, to corrupt the spiritual essence, and to feast upon fear and despair, weakening the veil between realms." Elias felt a chill colder than any winter draft seep into his bones. "Valak," he breathed, the name feeling ancient and venomous on his tongue. "So it's real." "Indeed," Flitwick confirmed, his voice laced with a mixture of terror and academic validation. "These texts speak of rare, horrific instances where powerful dark magic users, in their insatiable lust for power, have attempted to forge unholy alliances with such beings. They offer a foothold, a conduit, for the demon to manifest and influence the mortal plane, in exchange for immense, unnatural power." He looked up, his eyes wide and grave. "Voldemort has made a pact, children. He has offered Valak a gateway, and in return, he wields a power that makes his previous dark arts seem almost mundane. This explains the ward corruption, the spectral entity, the soul-draining residue. It's not just magic anymore. It's infernal dominion." The truth, while horrifying, brought with it a strange sense of clarity for Elias. His observations hadn't been delusional. His fears hadn't been unfounded. The world truly was in more peril than anyone imagined. And he, the overlooked Ravenclaw, had seen it first. A burning resolve began to forge itself in the pit of his stomach, replacing the familiar knot of self-doubt. He knew, with a certainty that vibrated through every fiber of his being, that this was no longer a matter for others to solve. He had found the truth, and he had to act on it. "So," Elias said, his voice stronger than he expected, "how do we sever it? How do we stop Valak?" Flitwick closed the grimoire with a soft thud, his gaze hardening, reflecting the gravity of their discovery. "That, Mr. Thorne," he said, pushing his spectacles up his nose, "is the question we must now answer. For the texts also warn, to confront Valak is to confront pure malevolence. And its influence, once established, is notoriously difficult to break. It will require more than just spells. It will require a different kind of magic altogether." He looked at Elias, a flicker of something akin to hope in his weary eyes. "And we must be swift. For every moment Valak feeds, its hold on our world and on Lord Voldemort grows stronger." The scent of ancient parchment and dust had become Elias Thorne's constant companion. For nights, he, Luna, and Professor Flitwick had been holed up in the deepest, most rarely disturbed section of the Hogwarts library, a hidden annex known only to a few, accessed through a disused transfiguration classroom. Moonlight, thick with motes of suspended dust, streamed through a high, grimy window, illuminating stacks of forgotten tomes whose titles alone could inspire nightmares. Flitwick, perched on a stack of spellbooks to reach eye level with the tallest shelves, hummed an off-key tune as he meticulously scrolled through a massive, leather-bound grimoire. Elias, hunched over a heavy table, scribbled notes furiously, cross-referencing Latin phrases from a brittle scroll with obscure footnotes in a 16th century demonology text. His head throbbed, his eyes burned, but a strange, desperate energy pulsed beneath his weariness. He'd barely slept, haunted by the terrifying visage of the spectral entity from the attack, its presence a cold knot in his gut. Luna, meanwhile, was less about frantic research and more about serene contemplation. She sat cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by a scattering of books, her fingers gently tracing faded illustrations of creatures that made the house elves' ancient warnings seem like lullabies. She wasn't reading them conventionally, rather, she seemed to be listening to them. "I think the true name isn't written Elias," Luna murmured, her voice soft but clear in the hushed chamber. "It's woven. Like a spell that needs to be unraveled, not just read." Elias paused, quill hovering. "Woven? What do you mean, Luna?" "It's in the patterns," she replied, gesturing vaguely to a collection of runic symbols he dismissed as mere decorative borders. "The way the fear builds, the echoes in the air when its influence is strongest. It's like the hum of a dirigible plum, but far more sinister." Flitwick, who had a surprising tolerance for Luna's unique insights, peered over his spectacles. "She might be onto something, Elias. Ancient binding rituals often rely on sympathetic magic resonance. The name isn't just a word, it's a vibrational key, a concept that defines the entity's very essence." He tapped a gnarled finger on a complex diagram in his grimoire. "This ritual, the rite of severance, it speaks of needing to pluck the resonant chord of the unholy name from the cacophony of fear it creates." Elias felt a spark of Ravenclaw brilliance amidst his exhaustion. Luna's ethereal insights, combined with Flitwick's academic rigor, were clicking into place. He looked at the runic patterns again, the decorative borders. He started sketching them, searching for repetitions, for a sequence that felt wrong, disharmonious. He remembered the feeling of dread, the draining cold, the sense of wrongness he'd felt when the entity had manifested. Hours later, as dawn began to paint the sky a faint bruised purple, Elias gasped. He pointed a trembling finger at a sequence of interwoven symbols he'd painstakingly transcribed, symbols that appeared subtly in 3 different, seemingly unrelated texts. They weren't just decorative, they were a complex, almost 3-dimensional sigil that pulsed with a faint, residual malevolence even on parchment. This pattern," Elias whispered, his voice hoarse. "It's not a word, it's a sigil. A sigil that resonates with the dread I felt. And look here." He pointed to a small, almost invisible inscription in the corner of one of the texts, a fragment of an old tongue. Translated, it means, "The despoiler of souls, the weeper in shadows, the serpent of blight." Valak. Flitwick's small frame stiffened. His spectacles slipped down his nose. "Valak," he breathed, his voice barely audible. "By Merlin's beard, it aligns. The historical records of ancient cults, the references to a king of blight." "Valak, you found it, Elias?" Luna, who had been watching with quiet intensity, simply nodded. "Yes, that's it. It feels like a chill in the heart of winter. It tastes like despair." Elias felt a surge of adrenaline, a chilling triumph. They had Valak's true name, its essence distilled into a potent sigil. Next, the ritual. Flitwick quickly turned to the relevant section in his grimoire. The rite of severance was not for the faint of heart. It required not only the true name, but also a focus of pure intent, an offering of personal fortitude, and a significant expenditure of magical energy to tear apart the demonic bond. It wasn't about destroying Valak, that was beyond their power, but severing its direct link to Voldemort, forcibly banishing its active influence from their plane. "It demands a caster of exceptional will," Flitwick read, his voice grave. "One whose spirit cannot be broken by the infernal presence. It describes a crossing of the threshold of fear, a direct confrontation with the demon's essence without succumbing to its influence." He looked at Elias, a flicker of concern in his eyes. Elias swallowed, a dry rasp in his throat. Exceptional will? Crossing the threshold of fear? He was a Ravenclaw who preferred books to battles, a quiet observer. Could he truly possess such strength? His self-doubt, ever present, coiled around his heart. A sudden, sharp crack echoed through the silent annex. It wasn't the familiar sound of apparition, but something far more visceral, like ancient stone groaning under immense pressure. The single high window shattered inwards, not with a crash of glass, but dissolving into a swirling vortex of shadow and icy wind. "Wards!" Flitwick cried, scrambling for his wand. The wards, they're bypassed. Before he could cast a protective charm, 3 spectral figures materialized from the swirling shadow, their forms less distinct than the one Elias had seen before, but infinitely more numerous and aggressive. They were like wraiths made of despair, their elongated fingers ending in razor-sharp claws, their hollow faces contorted in silent screams. The temperature plummeted, and a crushing weight descended on Elias's chest, squeezing the air from his lungs. Fear, raw and primal, clawed at his throat. "Valak senses us," Luna yelled, her voice strained, pulling her own wand. "It knows we found its name." The entity surged forward, targeting Elias. He felt a searing cold tear at his mind, attempting to rip his thoughts, his courage, his very self into fragmented terror. Images flashed before his eyes, his parents' faces contorted in agony, his friends screaming his name as he stood paralyzed, the world crumbling around him. He squeezed his eyes shut, trying to fight the overwhelming despair. No, not now. He had just found the answer. He couldn't break now. Flitwick, quick as a streak of light, unleashed a volley of stunning spells and banishing charms. They hit the spectral forms, rippling through them like stones thrown into water, momentarily dispersing them, but doing no lasting damage. "They're unaffected by conventional magic, Elias," he gasped, his small body trembling with effort. Like trying to grasp smoke. One of the entities lunged at Flitwick, its claws aiming for his throat. Luna, with startling agility, intercepted it with a surprisingly powerful protego, but the shield shimmered and cracked, threatening to give way. The force of the blow sent her staggering back, her eyes wide. Elias watched, horrified, as his friends fought for their lives against something magic couldn't touch. His own wand felt heavy, useless. The fear was a living thing, whispering in his ear, telling him he was weak, a coward, that he should run, hide, abandon them. "You're not good enough, Thorne. You never are." But then he remembered the spectral entities from the Death Eater attack, the unholy alliance, the threat to Hogwarts, to everything. He looked at Luna, struggling to maintain her shield, her face pale but resolute. He looked at Flitwick, fighting valiantly but clearly outmatched. "They believe in me. They need me." A sudden surge of defiance, hot and furious, ignited in his chest, burning through the icy grip of fear. He remembered Luna's words, "The true name isn't written, it's woven. It's a vibrational key." He remembered Flitwick's, a direct confrontation with the demon's essence without succumbing. He looked at the sigil he had drawn, the intricate pattern of Valak's true name, lying on the table. It was more than a drawing, it was a conduit. "Focus on the name," Elias roared, his voice cracking but firm. He wasn't sure what he was doing, but instinct screamed at him to fight back in a way that mattered. He thrust his wand forward, not to cast a spell, but to point directly at the spectral entities. He channeled every ounce of his burgeoning defiance, every shred of his courage, into visualizing the sigil, forcing it into his mind's eye, letting its complex pattern burn there. Then he spoke. Not an incantation, but the true name, the vibrational key, not in a whisper, but a guttural, forceful declaration that ripped through the oppressive silence, through the whispers of despair. He spoke the untranslatable sequence of sounds, the resonant chord that was Valak, that he had pieced together from the runic symbols, with all the conviction he could muster. The effect was instantaneous and violent. The spectral entities shrieked, a sound that seemed to scrape against the very fabric of reality, causing the air to shimmer and distort. They recoiled, their forms flickering like dying flames. The crushing fear in Elias's chest eased, replaced by a wave of nausea, but he held his ground, his gaze locked on the retreating shadows. "Elias, you did it!" Flitwick exclaimed, his eyes wide with a mixture of awe and shock. The entities, though not banished, were clearly wounded, their malevolent forms dissolving back into the swirling shadows that now pulsed weakly in the shattered window frame. With one final, Terrifying shriek, they dissipated completely, leaving behind only the lingering stench of ozone and despair. The vortex of shadow collapsed, and the early morning light streamed in, revealing a mess of broken glass and upturned books. Elias slumped against the table, gasping for breath, his heart hammering against his ribs. His wand fell from his numb fingers. He was shaking uncontrollably, his muscles weak with the sudden release of tension. He'd faced something unimaginable, and he hadn't broken. He hadn't run. He'd pushed back. Luna rushed to his side, her hand gently touching his arm. "You were very brave, Elias," she said, her large eyes filled with an uncharacteristic seriousness. "You faced the shadow within, and you didn't let it consume you." Flitwick, still catching his breath, stared at Elias with renewed respect. "Indeed, Mr. Thorne. To stand against such infernal malice, unarmed by conventional magic, and to wield its true name with such force, that was an act of profound courage. A demonstration of the exceptional will the ritual requires." Elias looked from Luna to Flitwick, a strange warmth spreading through him despite the lingering cold. They hadn't dismissed his instinctive act as luck or recklessness. They understood. And in their eyes, he saw not pity or doubt, but a reflection of the strength he had just found within himself. The bond between them, forged in shared terror and defiance, felt unbreakable. But the relief was fleeting. Valak knew. It had felt their investigation, their discovery. It had lashed out. They had the ritual, they had the name, but the demon was awake and aware. It had just offered a terrifying glimpse of the power they would face. "It knows we're coming," Elias said, his voice regaining some strength, though still rough. He looked at the shattered window, at the lingering malevolence in the air. "And it won't let us near Voldemort so easily. The next time, it won't be a test. It'll be an all-out assault." The final battle, he realized, was not just against Voldemort's amplified magic, but against Valak's insidious influence, an influence that had just whispered in his mind, "You think you're strong? I merely scratched the surface, Thorne. I will break you." A cold, insidious promise that settled deep in his bones. The night Hogwarts fell under siege was not heralded by a sudden, cataclysmic explosion, but by a creeping dread that seeped into the very stone of the castle. Elias felt it first, a cold shiver that wasn't from the November chill, but from the systemic failure of ancient protections. The gargoyles guarding the headmaster's office wept dust, their magical essence spraying. The shimmering shield that usually repelled the darkest charms flickered like a dying candle. Then came the screams. From the grounds, beyond the weakened wards, a cacophony erupted. Dark marks bloomed in the sky with horrifying speed, no longer mere green skulls, but writhing, shadowy serpents that seemed to draw the light out of the stars. Death Eaters poured through gaps in the boundary, their curses amplified, their movements unnaturally swift. The very air grew thick with a putrid scent, like forgotten graves and burning sulfur, Valak's signature. Elias clutched the rolled parchment containing the ritual, his knuckles white. Beside him, Luna, her usually dreamy eyes now alight with fierce determination, tightened her grip on her wand. Professor Flitwick, his tiny frame radiating an almost absurd tenacity, adjusted his spectacles, his usually cheerful demeanor replaced by grim resolution. "This is it, Elias," Flitwick squeaked, his voice surprisingly steady amidst the distant roars. "The point of no return. Remember the sequence, the true name, the focus. Every syllable must be precise." "I know, Professor," Elias managed, his own voice a reedy whisper. His heart hammered against his ribs, a frantic drumbeat against the rising tide of fear. He felt the insidious tendrils of Valak's influence trying to twine around his resolve, whispering doubts. "You're just a Ravenclaw. An orphan. Overlooked. What makes you think you can stand against a demon and the Dark Lord? You'll fail. Everyone you try to save will die because of your inadequacy." He pushed the thoughts away, channeling Luna's unwavering belief. No, not this time. He wouldn't be paralyzed. Not when the fate of everything rested on him. They moved through the corridors, bypassing frantic students being herded by teachers, their destination clear, the Great Hall, where the fiercest fighting had already begun. The portraits shrieked, the suits of armor clanked, their enchanted lives flickering in and out as the castle itself shuddered under the strain. The doors of the Great Hall had been blasted inwards, splintered with scattered amidst fallen tapestries. Inside, chaos reigned. Spells flashed, sickly green, vibrant red, searing purple, illuminating the grotesque ballet of battle. Death Eaters, some moving with an unholy agility that defied their human forms, dueled fiercely against Order members and defiant teachers. But it was Voldemort who commanded the eye. He stood on the dais where the high table usually resided, his pale face illuminated by the flashes of dark magic. He was no longer just the most powerful dark wizard. He was a conduit. A pulsating aura of pure malevolence surrounded him, occasionally flickering with spectral, serpentine energy. His Avada Kedavra curses no longer simply killed. They left behind a chilling void, a residue that seemed to drain the very color from the air. Demonic whispers, audible only to Elias, Luna, and those touched by the demon's dread, emanated from him, a symphony of terror. There. Flitwick pointed, his wand arm trembling slightly, but firm. He is the eye of the storm. Elias, we must create a path. I see him, Elias breathed, his gaze locked on Voldemort. The Dark Lord's eyes, even from this distance, felt like cold fire burning into his soul. He knows you're here, Luna said, her voice unusually flat. He's watching. Valak is watching. As if on cue, the air around Elias shimmered. The shouts of battle faded, replaced by the grating, sibilant voice of Valak, directly in his mind. Such foolishness, child. Do you think a few words can unmake what I have forged? Elias felt a cold dread spread through him. He saw a flash of his parents' faces, contorted in fear as they were struck down, a memory he didn't even have, crafted purely from infernal suggestion. Then he saw Luna and Flitwick crumbling to dust before his eyes, blaming him for their demise. You are weak. You are alone. You are insignificant. No, Elias gasped, stumbling. The illusion felt so real, so absolute. His courage wavered, threatening to collapse like the Hogwarts wards. Elias, focus. Flitwick's sharp voice cut through the mental fog, a sudden, welcome anchor. It's not real. It's the demon feeding. Luna, seeing his distress, pressed a small, intricately carved wooden moon into his hand. Hold this, Elias. It reminds you of light and what is real. Valak lies. He squeezed the moon. The cool wood against his palm was a tangible, grounding sensation. He forced himself to look at Luna, really look at her steadfast, almost serene expression. Then at Flitwick, who, despite his size, stood as firm as a rock. They were real. Their belief in him was real. He was not alone. The illusions flickered, weakened by his resistance, though the dread remained. He stared straight at Voldemort, past the pulsing aura, past the spectral shadows. This wasn't just about Voldemort anymore. It was about severing the thing tethering the demon to this world. Professor, Luna, Elias said, his voice gaining strength, clear a path for me. I need to get close enough. Understood. Flitwick barked, unleashing a flurry of complex charms that spun 3 Death Eaters into confused disarray. Luna, meanwhile, cast a vibrant, shimmering spell, a cloud of iridescent light that disoriented another group, drawing their aggression away from Elias. Elias sprinted forward, dodging curses, his wand held high. He focused on the true name, on the sequence of the ritual, on the desperate need to protect. His doubt hadn't vanished entirely, but it no longer paralyzed him. He was acting. Move, boy, a Death Eater shrieked, launching a powerful blasting curse. Elias threw himself to the side, rolling, the charm detonating where he'd stood seconds before. He saw Voldemort turn, his eyes narrowing. Thorne, the Dark Lord hissed, his voice echoing with an unnatural resonance. You are a fly to be swatted. You cannot comprehend the power I wield. I comprehend what you wield, Riddle. Elias shouted back, finding a surprising surge of defiance. And I'm here to take it away. With a burst of adrenaline, Elias closed the final distance, dodging a volley of sickeningly dark curses from Voldemort that shimmered with Valak's influence. He ignored the burning in his lungs, the fear clawing at his gut. He reached the foot of the dais, mere yards from the Dark Lord. "Fool!" Voldemort roared, his wand snapping up, preparing a killing curse. But Elias was faster. He raised his own wand, the parchment clutched in his other hand. He didn't have time for fancy spells. He just had to begin. "Valak!" Elias's voice rang out, clear and strong, cutting through the din of battle. He poured all his focus, all his will, into the first syllable of the true name. The air around him crackled, and the spectral serpentine aura around Voldemort shuddered violently. Voldemort staggered, a look of pure, unadulterated shock on his face, quickly morphing into furious terror. "No! What have you done?" he shrieked, a sound of agony and rage, as if a part of his very being had been ripped. The dark aura around Voldemort intensified, pulsating wildly. The ground trembled. Valak's whispers in Elias's mind turned into a deafening roar of pure malice, trying to shatter his concentration, to overwhelm him with visions of infinite, torturous suffering. But Elias had begun. He would not stop. He took a deep breath, forcing the second, more complex syllable of the true name past his lips. The serpent-like shadow around Voldemort seemed to recoil, tightening, constricting. Voldemort roared, unleashing a wave of raw, uncontrolled dark magic, a chaotic blast that sent Elias reeling, throwing him against the stone wall with bone-jarring force. His head hit the cold rock, and darkness threatened to swallow him. The parchment fluttered from his grasp. Through the haze of pain, Elias heard Luna's frantic cry, Flitwick's sharp counter-curses. He saw Voldemort, his face a mask of rage and terror, preparing another, more devastating attack, clearly understanding the profound threat Elias posed. Valak was fighting back, amplifying Voldemort's fury, trying to crush the Ravenclaw before he could finish. Elias knew, with chilling certainty, that if he faltered now, if the ritual was broken, the demon's wrath, channeled through the Dark Lord, would be absolute. He had to finish it. He had to. He reached desperately for the fallen parchment, the words on it, the key to everything, just out of his grasp. His vision blurred. He could feel Valak's infernal presence surge, preparing to engulf him, to drown him in the abyss. This was the moment. The sacrifice was not just courage, but his very soul. The Great Hall was a maelstrom of curses and counter-curses, a cacophony of shattering stone and desperate cries. Flames licked at tapestries, and dust motes danced in the chaotic flashes of magic. Voldemort stood at the epicenter, a storm incarnate, his every spell amplified, distorted by the unseen presence of Valak. The air around him shimmered with malevolence, feeding on the fear that clung to every spell, every scream, pressing down on the Hogwarts defenders like a physical weight. Elias, flanked by a fiercely defensive Flitwick and a surprisingly serene Luna, pushed through the fray. His heart hammered a desperate rhythm against his ribs, but a cold, hard resolve had settled over him. He had seen the terror in his friends' eyes, the hopelessness in the faces of the teachers. This wasn't just a battle, it was an execution. And he, Elias Thorne, the quiet Ravenclaw, was the only one who could stop it. "Hold them." Flitwick squeaked, his wand a blur of defensive charms, fending off a charging Death Eater with surprising ferocity. Luna, her eyes wide and distant, pointed her wand at nothing visible to Elias, muttering, "They don't like the sound of happy thoughts, do they? It makes their teeth itch." A spectral shadow, unseen by most, shrieked and dissipated near the Gryffindor table. Elias clutched the ritual components, the ancient parchment, the vial of moon-kissed dew, the shard of cleansed obsidian, his knuckles white. The weight of it all was suffocating, but he pushed past the fear, past the doubt that gnawed at his gut. He remembered Flitwick's words, "True names hold power, Elias. But the will to wield that power is greater still." And Luna's quiet conviction, "You have a very bright light, Elias. You just need to let it shine." He saw Voldemort, poised to unleash another devastating curse, his crimson eyes gleaming with infernal power. This was it. Elias took a deep breath, the scent of ozone and burnt magic filling his lungs. He knelt, ignoring the frantic battle around him, and swiftly arranged the ritual items on the charred flagstones. The obsidian shard hummed faintly, drawing in the ambient dread, while the dew in the vial pulsed with a soft, ethereal glow. He focused, drawing on every ounce of concentration he possessed. Valak. The name was a serpent on his tongue, a key to a prison he prayed he could unlock. As he began to chant the ancient High Galagad incantation, a guttural rasp that seemed to vibrate in his very bones, the great hall warped. The elegant arches stretched into grotesque claws, the banners dissolved into flayed skin, and the comforting light of the enchanted ceiling flickered, replaced by the chilling glow of a sickly green inferno. Valak was fighting back, twisting reality, trying to shatter his resolve, to drag him into its own infernal landscape. His friends' faces shimmered into monstrous visages. Luna's eyes became vacant, bleeding black. Flitwick's form contorted into a shrieking imp. "You're too weak, Elias." Luna's voice, distorted and echoing, accused him. "You always were. You let them die." Flitwick's warped face snarled, "Fool. You meddle with forces you cannot comprehend. You'll doom us all." Doubt, a familiar, insidious poison, began to seep into his mind. He faltered, the ancient words catching in his throat. "They're right. I'm just Elias Thorne. No one special. What makes me think I can banish a demon?" His gaze drifted to Voldemort, whose skeletal fingers now stretched towards him, tipped with black flame, a cruel smile on his serpentine face. "You believe your petty magic can defy the might I command, Half-Blood?" Voldemort hissed, his voice layered with Valak's own deep, resonant growl. "You are merely a sacrifice. A morsel for the master." Panic threatened to overwhelm him. The ritual faltered, the glow of the dew dimming. He felt a cold tendril of fear wrap around his heart, squeezing the life out of his courage. He was a fraud, a boy playing a man's game. But then, through the terrifying illusion, he heard a sound. A small, clear hum. It was Luna, her real form, standing defiantly against an invisible horror, humming a jaunty, off-key tune. And Flitwick, his tiny frame radiating furious defiance, conjuring a shield charm that pulsed with defiant silver light against a volley of dark curses. They weren't broken. They were fighting. For him. No, this isn't real. Elias clamped his eyes shut, forcing himself to breathe, to push past the terror. He wasn't seeing his friends. He was seeing Valak's twisted lies. He remembered the feel of the obsidian shard, the strength it radiated, the sheer ancient truth it held. He remembered the research, the logic, the undeniable evidence. His Ravenclaw mind, usually a source of insecurity, became his anchor. He had pieced this together, bit by bit. This wasn't a game. This was science, albeit a terrifying, magical, infernal science. He opened his eyes. The monstrous faces still leered, but now he saw the cracks in the illusion, the faint outlines of his true friends beneath. He saw Voldemort's amplified magic, but he also saw the conduit, the vulnerability. Valak was powerful, but it was using Voldemort, not being him. And its power was fear. He refused to give it that. He clenched his jaw, the ancient words once more flowing from him, stronger this time, imbued with a nascent, defiant fire. He wasn't special because he had some innate power. He was special because he chose to stand here, to face this, even when every fiber of his being screamed to run. His strength wasn't in flashy spells. It was in his mind, his observation, his refusal to yield. The air crackled. The infernal green light intensified, then pulsed, fighting against a burgeoning golden luminescence emanating from Elias. The true name of Valak, uttered with absolute conviction, reverberated through the very stones of Hogwarts. "Valak, the profane. I name thee. I banish thee." Elias roared, his voice raw, hoarse, but resonating with an authority he'd never known he possessed. He thrust the obsidian shard forward, its dark surface now reflecting the golden light of his resolve, channeling it like a lightning rod. A scream tore through the great hall, a sound of pure agony and outrage, utterly inhuman. It wasn't Voldemort. It was Valak. The illusions shattered like glass, revealing the true, horrific chaos of the battle. The infernal green glow surrounding Voldemort pulsed violently, like a dying star. Voldemort staggered, his eyes widening in shock and fury. What have you done, boy?" he shrieked, his voice losing its demonic timbre, reverting to the familiar, chilling hiss. Elias felt a searing pain, a phantom tearing in his very soul, as if a part of him was being ripped away, but he held fast, pouring every last drop of his will, his courage, his self into the ritual. The moonkissed dew evaporated in a flash of brilliant white light, momentarily blinding everyone. The ancient parchment ignited, burning with a cold, blue flame that emitted no heat, only a profound sense of expulsion. The link was severing. With a final, earth-shattering shriek that seemed to tear at the very fabric of reality, a monstrous, shadowy form erupted from Voldemort, thrashing violently. It was a terrifying, ephemeral entity, vast and indistinct, a shifting nightmare of claws and eyes and gnashing teeth, radiating an unimaginable cold. This was Valak, forced into a momentary, partial manifestation as it was ripped from its host. The entity lunged at Elias, its form blurring, intent on dragging him into the abyss it was being banished to. But Flitwick, with a battle cry that defied his size, conjured a truly monumental shield charm, a shimmering dome of pure magic that held the demonic phantom at bay, even as the charm's master groaned with the effort. Luna, meanwhile, simply smiled serenely, pointing her wand and whispering, "Off you go, you horrid thing. The crumplehorn snorkax are waiting." A jet of sparkling, rainbow-colored light, utterly harmless, but strangely annoying to the demon, struck its spectral form, making it recoil further. Valak let out another soul-rending shriek, a sound of unadulterated fury and defeat, as it was yanked backward, screaming defiance, into a rapidly closing fissure in reality that had opened in the ceiling of the Great Hall. The air grew impossibly cold, then snapped back to normal with a dizzying rush. The fissure vanished, leaving behind only the lingering scent of ozone and something akin to burnt metal and despair. Valak was gone. Voldemort reeled, his cloak billowing around him, his wand arm dropping. The infernal aura around him had dissipated entirely, leaving him looking gaunt, his skin paler, his eyes less luminous. He looked diminished. His magic, though still formidable, lacked the insidious, soul-draining power, the corrupting edge it had possessed moments before. He was still the Dark Lord, but he was no longer a vessel for something infinitely worse. The Death Eaters, too, seemed to falter. The sudden absence of the ambient dread, the inexplicable surge of hope among the Hogwarts defenders, threw them into disarray. Their movements became less coordinated, their curses less potent. The balance of the battle had shifted, irrevocably. Elias collapsed onto his knees, gasping for breath, the obsidian shard falling from his nerveless fingers. A profound weariness settled over him, deeper than any physical exhaustion. He felt hollowed out, but also lighter. The crushing weight of Valak's influence, of the fear it projected, was gone. He looked up, his eyes meeting Luna's. She offered him a soft, understanding smile, devoid of any madness, only warmth. "You did it, Elias," she said, her voice clear and gentle. "You truly did." Flitwick, panting heavily, lowered his wand, his face pale, but etched with a fierce pride. "Remarkable, Mr. Thorne. Truly remarkable." Voldemort, regaining his footing, let out a frustrated roar. "You have only delayed the inevitable, boy. I will crush you and this pathetic school with my own power." But his words lacked the terrifying certainty they once held. He was wounded, not physically, but spiritually. The source of his unnatural strength was severed. The infernal bargain broken. The tide of the battle had turned. Hogwarts defenders, seeing Voldemort's visible weakening, hearing his faltering roar, fought with renewed vigor. The Death Eaters, no longer infused with Valak's subtle terror, began to retreat, their morale shattered. Elias watched them go, feeling the last vestiges of fear drain from him, replaced by something steady and unwavering. He was still just Elias Thorne, the quiet Ravenclaw. But he had faced a demon, stared into the abyss of his own self-doubt, and found something within himself he hadn't known was there. Courage. Resilience. The strength to choose to act, even when terrified. He hadn't just banished a demon, he had banished the insecurity that had always held him captive. He was changed. Forever. He knew the fight wasn't over. Voldemort was still a formidable threat. But now, they had a chance. And Elias, for the first time in his life, felt ready to lead the charge. The Great Hall, though battered and scarred, now breathed a sigh of relief. But as Elias looked at the lingering scorch marks, the broken statues, and the weary, yet triumphant, faces of his friends, he knew that while one horror had been vanquished, others remained. Valak might be gone, but the knowledge of its existence, and the scars it left on magic and soul, would forever alter the wizarding world. And the most chilling thought of all, a whisper that seemed to echo from the place where Valak had vanished. What if Valak wasn't the only one? What other bargains had Voldemort considered? The path ahead was still dark, but Elias Thorne, no longer a bystander, was ready to walk it.